Do you have?
Okay, I've got it running, just so you know. I mean, it's still showing, but it's just on.
I know. You want to try to set that? We just
I can, if you don't mind.
Oh, it's just you've done that the last few times
Yeah.
I've been here, so I just.
I don't crowd you guys too much.
Shove this out. Wouldn't want to block the view.
Yeah. All right.
Oh, so you.
6 o'clock, we'll call the meeting to order. Do you have any additions or corrections to the agenda for this evening's meeting? We have a motion to approve the agenda. We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye. Opposed, same sign. Agenda's approved. First item on the agenda is the approval of consent items. Anybody have any questions or comments on those?
What is Rapin's Wholesale Web Store?
That is nutrition.
Okay.
What's the description?
Pans, lids, dress.
Yep, so taste, ask you for some additional products in the nutrition.
Oh.
Yeah, and that's a new vendor.
Okay.
Yep, that's why you haven't seen it before. Yep.
Any other questions or comments on consent items? Will it be next month, Julie, that we'll have the report that compares to prior years?
Yep,
Okay.
so today is a big day in the finance world, in school finance. We had to certify three really large reports on the 15th of September. And so that's the CAR, the SES, and then the transportation report. So those all had to be certified today. So that means that the numbers are basically done. They're locked in from last year. And so now we can move forward with the new year, and between now and the next meeting, I'll do the line item budget, and then that's where that document comes from.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on the consent items? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the consent items?
So
We have a motion, do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. All in favor of approving the consent items? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Consent items are approved. We don't have any correspondence this month. So we'll move into public forum. Anybody here for public forum? I know Sue, you sent us an email, so
Okay,
you want to start?
I'm just used when everybody else is here to, go ahead, it's fine if you want to go with them. I thought I provided just a little bit of the background to help with some foundational context. And these are things I have talked about before. I'm just going to kind of pull them all together before I get to some of the things that I emailed you. And yes, I did print out one of the documents here. Briefly, I started going up to lobby at the legislature in the 1980s for the open enrollment legislation. In the process of doing that, it meant that I attended education committee meetings for both chambers off and on, got to talk to a lot of legislatures over time. One of the things I learned while I was up there was something, well, yeah, he's not up there anymore. So I can use his name. Senator Paul McKinley, who was on the Senate Education Committee for several years, said was termed Iowa's dirty little secret. So this is kind of a history of our memorization system that we switched to late 1950s into the 1960s. Because districts can do it at their own time frame, that's kind of what it took moving around the state, but we weren't the only state doing it. Basically, when they switched to memorization, there were students who didn't learn that way. They were considered defective and they were put into special ed. So the numbers in special ed kept increasing over time. And I remember in the 1960s when I was in high school, so I read newspapers a lot, there was an article saying, well, the average state assessment score was dropping. So what started happening, I learned when I was lobbying for open enrollment here, what happened is the state decided to periodically, every time 50% of the students were not passing the state assessments, they were dropping, you know, how hard it was here to take, which would increase the numbers that were passing it. The lead up to this, but they weren't properly assessing how they were going about it. In other words, memorization and the increasingly embedded discrimination against the students that couldn't learn that way, couldn't interact, couldn't learn. That's what got us to 2002. No Child Left Behind, followed by Every Student Succeeds. The idea was that the national level would set a standard that states had to work up to if they wanted federal dollars. So it was set at the 60th national percentile, and all states, Iowa included, had to pick a starting point. Well, due to the fact they've been dropping the standards and not counting the test scores of special ed students, many of which weren't even given the test because they weren't going to count the scores anyway, Iowa wanted to start at 25 and work their way up to 60, and they finally negotiated with the national government to start at 45, and we're still not up there yet, almost 20 years later. Now, the reason for that is because of the factions that you guys see in education all the time, and I don't know to what extent the public sees it if it isn't being talked about or written about in the media, even social media or whatnot here. But as you know, you still have factions in the state that want to cling to memorization. They just don't think there's anything else, and students that can't learn that way are considered defective. And just to use an example no longer here would be the former Superintendent Todd Martin, because at an IEP meeting, he actually yelled this at me, that memorization was the only way to learn critical thinking skills in high school. And if you couldn't do that, you were damaged good. His term, damaged goods, within 3 AEA people also at the meeting. This was 3 years ago. So thank you for not renewing his contract and bringing in someone who would at least put a stop to the memorization here. But it doesn't mean that every teacher, even around the state or in the school, is at the same point in their transition. And I have to go by the ones that my remaining grandchild in here has. And there are 2 or 3 that he has in middle school that are really good at interacting one-on-one and really working with them. And there are others that just aren't at that point yet. And some, you can tell by the attitude, still consider them defective, even though the legislation says that you really have to stop doing that because it's depriving them of their civil rights. In essence, to continue that is roughly equivalent to the Jim Crow South. One of the things that began attacking that was the 1954 Supreme Court decision, Brown versus the Board of Education. It said they had to stop segregating students. Just apply this to a number of other areas, but also special ed is just one area here. But what I wanted to do, let's see if Nicole isn't here. I don't know, can I?
Oh, sorry.
I'll just let that go around that way. What I sent you in the email, I just picked one category. When I was last here 2 months ago, we talked about the students that just needed additional support systems, like maybe people that had issues at home, things like that, because I know at the schools you need a lot of that. So I picked ADHD for this particular example, because what I sent you was a link to the Iowa education website, specifically their page that addresses ADHD. And there are several links on there, but one of them takes you to the US Department of Education website and this 2-page document. And I wanted you to see that because in the very first paragraph at the top, it talks about civil rights. So we're back to what the Supreme Court had already cited, that there are some things going on in schools that are actually denying access to education for some students, which is denying them their civil right to access education. And in the case of this particular category, considering them damaged goods is a violation of national law. So if you learn to work with them, and like I said, some of your teachers here have done it, just not all of them, they learn how to mentally engage them. And we've even learned this in our home. Not everybody does. We worked on this a long time. When you mentally engage them and there's no cognitive disability, they're perfectly capable of learning. There's no reason to say they can't learn. Don't discriminate against them. But unfortunately, not everybody in education understands that. I did discuss this yesterday with an attorney from the Iowa Department of Education. And when I told her the story about Todd and 3 years ago, we get this at the other end. They know that you've got factions in education here that are not doing it the right way. They're not changing the way they need to. And I have no idea what it is they have in mind. And I don't know if discussing it more publicly or not is the way to go. But I know that you can go a long ways to help these kids a whole lot more, because they're going to need this in their lives. Just one brief academic application here. Just because of Jason's science background is the only thing I can figure. hard numbers are most useful when you understand what's actually generating the numbers, where they're coming from, because that's how you understand what's doing it, and it helps improve the quality of your problem solving and decision making. So the faction of educators that point to all of these numbers, I don't care if it's like test scores, assessments, whatever, saying, look, these students have shown us they can't learn. Look at these numbers in these various groupings here. But what they're missing is, where is an assessment of the type of teaching methods that were being used to mentally engage and interact with them, because that's how they learn best. So you have to properly assess what are the numbers based on, where are they coming from, in order to more effectively use them to make decisions. One last thing, as a mathematician at the Department of Education, if he'll talk to some, I know he's always afraid of losing his job, but he's really good with numbers. He can tell you, if he will, there is absolutely no mathematical correlation between the standards on the Iowa assessments and the standards on NAEP. Two different systems are being used. And Iowa is dropping in rankings to other states through 2019, just because other states are getting more teachers on board with changing their teaching methods and stopping the embedded discrimination against the kids that don't learn using memorization. Anything you guys can do in your networks to help that, so I don't have to keep bringing in other categories of students, because similar things would apply, just the numbers might be a little different, but it's still the same thing to improve the teaching methods. And I really applaud the ones that have actually made some great improvements, because you do have some here, just not everybody. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Other people for public forum?
I'll volunteer to go next.
Okay.
So this evening, you all know me by now, but my name is Christy Wiebeck. I have 3 requests for action. First, I'm requesting the curriculum and syllabus, including but not limited to the discussion topics, writing assignments, and required reading and recommended reading lists for the high school literature course titled Social Justice. Second, I am requesting additional information from Dr. Clapper on the email that you provided yesterday regarding the staff numbers and the potential school closure. First, what is the reality of the situation behind the comments that were made? Second, why are we in a position where we're communicating that the school staffing level is so critical to result in a school closure? And third, what are the alternatives and solutions to this staffing challenge to prevent future potential closures of our school? Third, after the recent federal judge's ruling unilaterally overturning Iowa state law that limited schools' ability to invoke mask mandates, I am wondering and requesting on behalf of my family and our community what the intent of this board is and the commitment to the community regarding the mask mandates moving forward. Will we continue to use the Return to Learn plan that was approved last month during our August session, that aligns with the Iowa Department of Health's childhood illnesses guidance that was shared even as recent as yesterday? If you are considering, as a board, reinstating the mask mandates and forcing face coverings on our child against parents' wishes, we should pause for a moment and think about the second and third order effects beyond the immediate threat of illness that is still relatively low risk to the majority of our student population. I would recommend looking at the adverse effects of mask wearing on children. These effects are documented in cases where mask wearing has been far less than a typical day at school. Just yesterday, I researched over 9 journal articles, very quickly came to the table, describing adverse effects ranging from degrading cognitive development that will carry on with a child throughout their entire life, to emotional and behavioral changes, like Sue mentioned, ADHD, anxiety, stress, and even suicidal ideation because of mask wearing, and overall degradation of a child's health. Many of you all know already my position is to support parents and staff in the freedom to choose to decide what's best for the personal health decisions and their personal situation. If you want to wear a mask, that's great. Send your child in one. I support that too. If you don't, I support you as well. I continue to advocate and respect and support the freedoms to uphold civil liberties to decide what medical choices are right for you in your unique situation. I commend Dr. Clapper and Mr. Acker for the stand you took at the beginning of the school year, setting the stage with your introductory emails highlighting respect for all, irregardless of medical decisions being made within your personal household. I encourage this administration and school board to continue to the course that was laid out in our Return to Learn plan. Please stand for respect for all and uphold liberty to allow our students, staff, and families to make the decisions that are right and have the freedom to choose what's right for their medical decisions in their family. Please commit to upholding our Return to Learn plan and keep masks optional at Baxter.
Thank you. Any other people for public forum? Okay, thank you. Since COVID is kind of front and center, do you want to give us an update, Michael, and
Yeah.
kind of let everybody know where we're at?
So as of yesterday, we were just under 7% of our elementary population that was out sick, but not necessarily with COVID, just out sick. And roughly the same percentage at the high school, or middle school, high school. We had closer to about 15% of our staff members. We have about, as of today, we had about 10 staff members, but they're not all classroom teachers. Some of them are paraprofessionals, which that's awful, but we can still keep running the school. And so I had a couple of parents reach out, and I just explained that we don't have a special, like a certain threshold that we can say with when we have 20% of our teachers out, then we're closing school. It's not like that. It's because if we can have people in the building that can staff a classroom, we will do that. So like yesterday afternoon, I was subbing in a classroom. Mr. Aker and Mr. Luther have been subbing. So if there's any possible way that we can keep the doors open with teachers in the classrooms, we will do that. That is our first priority. You know, we've canceled some of the classes that, you know, we hate to do it, but we've had to cancel WIN and put the WIN teacher in a classroom. If worst case scenario, we would have to cancel the specials. You would cancel PE, put the PE teacher in a classroom. It would be not ideal, but at least we could have the school open. So it's just, I just wanted to get that on people's radar, that if it continues that we keep getting more and more teachers out sick and we can't staff the building, we would have to call off school. But that's certainly our last resort. But I just wanted to make sure that people knew that that was a possibility, and that is happening. I mean, places, I've heard of that, they're having to call off school, this or that. And we could look at options, you know, if we couldn't staff the elementary, but we could still have high school, we could just call off elementary, or vice versa, if we could just call high school but still have elementary, we would work the best we can to keep the doors open. But I just want people to know that that is a possibility.
Could it go class by class, even if you can't fulfill second grade, let's say?
Maybe we'd have to kind of figure out how
Yeah.
we would do that.
Not
Maybe,
ideal,
Not
but
ideal.
yeah.
But it seems like we could, maybe. We hope it doesn't get to that. It worked out that it's unfortunate that we've got all these paraprofessionals that are out sick, but they don't necessarily impact the whole classroom, but they impact the student that they're with, which upsets the apple cart, because then we're trying to pull people, and then if a little one is supposed to have a one-on-one aid with them and we don't have any people to do it, then that child's not getting their needs met, and it can disrupt the rest of the classroom. So it's not ideal, but we're trying the best we can to keep our school open.
And substitutes.
Yeah,
I mean,
and we're
they're
just reaching out to
trying
trying to, if there's anyone who wants to be a sub para, that's why I included that part in the message. And I've even had people reach out and say, what do I have to do to become a para or to become a sub? Because there's just not enough subs. And it's not just a Baxter problem, it's a nationwide problem. There are not enough teachers and there's not enough subs. And so we are just trying every opportunity we can to get the word out. If people are interested in subbing for us, please reach out, because we are looking for subs. And do we want to
What about, I mean, I guess would, like, I mean, I know we don't want to do that, but the hybrid where it's half the kids, would that alleviate
I mean,
some of the teachers?
we could, if we needed to. I mean, yeah, we wouldn't take any options off the table, but, we would certainly try our best to just keep the doors open with as many kids here as possible. And it's really not so much the kid, I mean, we feel terrible that kids are getting sick, that's awful, but we can keep going with sick kids. It's the sick staff that we can't keep running the school with.
And 6 or 7%, I mean, we've had that before.
Yeah, I mean, we
Flu
don't even
season,
report
so-
until 10%. When you get 10% absences, then our school nurse has to call the Department of Ed or Health and report things. And we're not to that percentage yet.
And to address, I mean, I guess we're still proceeding with our return to learn plan as we
Right.
approved, right?
Yeah.
To kind of answer just some questions.
Yeah, John and I visited a little bit yesterday, and of course, you guys can, give your thoughts, but my recommendation is just to leave things as they are and leave it in the hands of parents. To wear a mask if you choose to, don't wear a mask if you don't choose to, but that's just my recommendation. Obviously, the board can take another stance if you want to.
I am concerned, numbers are high, and I personally believe in the masks and vaccinations, and our little ones can't get vaccinated yet, and I'm looking forward to when that happens soon, hopefully in October. I understand all your points, but I just want everybody to know where I'm coming from too. I'm concerned. And I think that children that have underlying conditions, they're better served with masks being worn. We have to take that into consideration. We're here to take care of all of the children. That's my 2 cents.
I echo what he's saying. I mean, we have two really great strategies: vaccination, mask wearing, and only kids 12 and up right now can get vaccinated. And the good news is that is on the horizon for kids younger. But those are two really important strategies that we have in place right now. So we need to utilize those as much as possible.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, with a child with a condition, mask every day and just hope that washing hands and trying to keep them aware of spacing and distancing and all that is enough. It's not ideal, but I guess that's where we're at. So.
I guess I'd ask the principals, are the children using the sanitation stations as much this year as they did last year, or is it a deal where we maybe need to refresh their a little bit, I guess to me that does a lot. I mean, if we have those available.
Yeah, I see just some common practice out of kids that they're kind of got used to a certain practice of hand sanitizing and stuff.
So they're still doing
they're
that.
taking advantage of those opportunities. Regardless of whether they're wearing masks or not. I mean, I will talk to, it taxes a system though, right? I mean, so, and then on my shoulders, right, I'll just say this, like, what step do I make to sub this person there, that person there, where I don't affect all, the wrong people at the wrong time. And so this has been a pretty stressful week, more stressful than any week last year. This has been grueling. Because, people are complaining that Janet's not answering her phone. Well, Janet's in classrooms. People are complaining that there's no win time. Well, our win paras are sick and they're one-to-one paras now for special education students who require that. I mean, so the system is being taxed in a lot of ways, I mean, I had a kid, I walked outside today through the drop-off zone and a kid stops and says, yesterday you weren't out here, Mr. Aker, to help me get across the street, I'm like, I mean, as the kid that worries about that, I'm like, I know, buddy, I'm sorry, I mean, I'm in a classroom yesterday afternoon. So one peg affects another one all the way down, and rightfully so. Right now, you know, we're 5 paras that are not in the building right now, and 5 paras are causing our system down there to kind of just flex and stretch and wear on people. And quite honestly, you know, today when another one came up to me and said, hey, I got this symptom right now, I probably need to leave. I was like, you know, okay. And now it's a plan for tomorrow. What's the new plan for tomorrow? Because some of the sub-type people we would have come in don't want to come in because they understand, you know, that now I'm putting them in that situation if they come in. Some are very open to come in, you know. So it's just it's a tax on a system, and being a small town with not a whole lot of resources anyway, right? Local resources for it's tough. It's tough. But you know, we're day by day making those moves, and I'm just hoping I'm making the right move that doesn't affect something somewhere that I didn't see happen. You know, like, I mean, you know, I felt terrible, you know, something
Right.
kid tries to cross the street and I'm not out there at the end of the day, right? And something were to happen, right? Because I had to put myself in a different role. So
We had that email that was sent out. Do you think it would help if we kind of went like the next step, like you just described to us? It's like that, hey, be prepared if your child comes home and didn't have wind time today. Here's kind of, you know, why that happened. So
yeah, pretty soon
With
people
something
start
like-
to ask questions,
Right.
like, well, my kid's
and
missing
maybe
out
just
on.
we're kind
Yeah.
of be ahead of it a little bit. and just kind of
Absolutely. I
explain.
mean, I just, as I sent to teachers today, I haven't sent to parents, but to teachers today, I'm like, you know, that flexibility, that patience, it's almost now a day-to-day email, because like at one point I'm like, well, this person's going to be there and you can have this, but at any moment, and then sure enough, by the middle of the day, that was gone. That
And
wasn't
maybe
an
we
option
can do
anymore.
better sending emails out to
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
constituents, just to, you know, maybe not every day, but a couple times a week at least, just to update and say, hey, we're gonna be.
We're
If
just
your
right now-
child's used to this pair, they might have somebody different, or they might not have wind time and that, and here's kind of the reasons, so. Is that something that's doable? Okay, any other board members, discussion on
When's it going away?
COVID?
That's what's interesting. Jason said it's worse than last year.
Yeah.
As far as planning.
We just didn't have these staffing issues last year for whatever reason, you know, and now
Had different measures
whatever
in
the
place last year.
different measures in place, right? And so it is unfortunately like it's coming out of this area, right? Like you can just kind of see where that is moving through, and so unfortunately some of us are all like, okay, next on the jumping block. You know, it's like, gosh darn it.
It is a little different in my building. I mean, especially at the high school level. We have great high school teachers. Some have been out. But I understand a lot of kids don't like to learn virtually. The Google Classroom is a virtual, modality that we use. So I've seen that. I do think we take steps back when these teachers are gone. And I mean, we're putting 40 kids in a collaborative area, just hoping they're following along online. It's not great education, but our doors were open, and it is onto the kids if, there's stuff out there. My concern is in our special population right now. I mean, we have a special ed teacher that's out permanently, or at least in the near future. We have another one 10 days, so in 2/3 of our special ed population and 2 more paras, our most needy kids' needs are not getting met. And I don't have it's just like, I mean, we're lucky if there's I don't have a 3rd grade teacher out that I don't know that I have to go into. We'll fill out the ag bill. We'll try to figure that out, but that population's a concern. I mean, there's no great answers here, and you said it right, John. If we were a year ago right now, we would be hybrid. I know why we wouldn't, but I mean, it is what it is. So we're just doing the best we can. I'm like Jason, we talked a lot today. I don't know what tomorrow, I mean, it's taxing, and it's like we said, we lost 2 more. I mean, we could, if we lost 8 or 9 more, I mean, I don't know, and it's going through us. Yeah, I mean, there's people out sick that are not getting tested, but they're taking days off, so it really only matters if we're missing 12 teachers. Tomorrow we may miss 15 teachers. And when you're only on a staff of 40, it's a lot, but I don't know, there's no great answers. It's easy. All I want to say is it is easier at least the high school level. Middle school, we make sure somebody's covering the middle school class, but high school, we put them in the collaborative spaces.
And you'd hope that, I mean, once you kind of get through it, that they, if it is COVID they've had, that they, once they're recovered, that they'll be back and be okay. So.
Was it kind of like a couple of days? You lose a couple, you get a couple back at the end of their 10 days, or is it just kind of like a boom, all of a sudden there's 10? I mean, is this like a cycle, or is it just like in 10 days they're gonna be back and everything?
No, I think that's.
Ours unfortunately have all kind of hit around the same time, you know, there's a couple days on either end of it, so they're all gonna kind of miss about the same amount of time and then just kind of feather back, but
And a half, hopefully it kind of gets.
just this week, right? I mean, we just, here we go, you know, so they're all kind of on a close 10-day, or however many days they're gone.
Or the ones that have COVID. Like, we
Or the
don't
ones
know
that have COVID,
everybody
that's
has
right,
COVID.
yeah,
I mean,
not
it's- I
exactly.
mean, I was out sick
Yeah.
2 weeks ago.
Well, it's like Rob said,
And
some
I was
people
out
are
for
choosing to
a
test and some
day
aren't.
because I was just trying to be cautious. So I was out and then I was back. But it just, some people are out and then back, and we're just,
Remember we said a year ago, if you have symptoms, don't come to work.
Right,
That was
that's-
everybody,
yeah.
just stay home. If we had that right now, we would we have a lot of sick people teaching every day. I mean, I was in a room with 5 today and 4 of them were definitely ill. Throat, sniffles, I mean, but they're here working. I don't know the answer because all those people went home. Now we're, you know, I don't have the answer, but I know we have people here, Jason would say that as well, that are sick, that are here at school grinding. Like before COVID, what we would just all do is like, just battle through the day, you know? So.
Anything else? Going forward, we're going to continue with a return to learn plan. And try to reach out with emails to our district patrons a little more often, just kind of an update on
Probably just,
staffing.
I would add maybe some of Sarah's recommendations that she's been sharing all along to, reminders to parents not to send their kids to school if they're sick. I mean, we're gonna continue to have these issues, and I think it's just good reminders. Wash hands, stay home if you're not the only one. Don't send your kid to school with Tylenol.
Okay, moving on, building project update. As far as the multi-purpose wrestling building, we did yesterday, Pam got the blueprints that were stamped and certified and signed by an engineer. I took them down to the county building inspector. That person wasn't there yesterday. I left him off along with the check for the building permit. I talked to him after lunch today. He was still out in the field doing inspections and that, but he was going to be back in this afternoon. He said if he saw anything that was a problem, he'd give me a call, and I didn't hear from him. So I'm assuming right now that they have everything. So I'll touch base with him tomorrow if I haven't heard from him. Make sure we got a permit. So other things, like we did get a bid from the wrestling dads for the flooring. It was about $4,000, which I think that was pretty close to what they bid when we were looking at doing it in the bus garage. Pam's talked to Bill, our new person. He can probably do the heating, finish that bathroom in the bus barn, and a lot of that. So that's a good thing. I mean, utilize his services. We'll have to buy supplies and that, but he'll be able to install. So I think that's kind of where that's at. So I talked to the builder. They were hoping here last half of September to continue to get it done. Once they get here with the crew, it'll probably be about 3 days, I'm guessing. Move pretty fast. So, anybody have any questions on that? I guess as far as building project 2, those heaters or whatever, they got those kind of,
I haven't heard much.
Jamie been working.
Yeah, Jamie's been working on it, but I'll follow up with
Okay.
him.
Okay, we'll move on to principals reports. Rob, you want to go first?
Sure. So coming off the COVID negative, there's tons of positive going on. It's funny, a lot of the things that we took for granted, we're rolling with now in fall sports, which we'll talk about homecoming. It's just that you go into the classroom and there's no instructor and you can just, tell that and that's the reason we're in the building. But all of the other stuff, I mean, it is awesome. We have the doors open and our kids, the school spirit is high. Our participation activities is high. So a couple weeks, we're gonna have homecoming. It's gonna look like a regular homecoming. Our student council has organized it all, doing a great job at that. We'll see dress up days, we'll see boat battles, the parade, the pep rally, everything that we had prior, we're planning on. So kids are excited about it and doing a great job with it. Fall sports is off. Cross country's won a couple meets. Football teams had a great start. Volleyball teams, 500. I mean, we're doing a lot of good things away from the classroom. I mean, we're competing and kids are excited. You see the students, the student body, the student sections. That's great. Our numbers are really good everywhere except junior high football. We're just short boys in that 7th grade class. I think we have 5. So there's a little nerves about if we can continue. There were 9 in practice today. So, but everywhere else, our numbers are great, both middle school and high school. Wanted to just give thanks to the FFA. It went out, we moved it, the Ag Safety Day. It was phenomenal. One beautiful day, Jason brought the kids out the bus, and I mean, our kids had a ton of machinery and animals, and it's one of those days where you go, that's education outside the classroom. Our kids that were giving speeches to the young kids about the combines, the tractors and the animals. You just saw kids who may not be just our top academic kids just flourish in that. And Jason's kids were great too. I mean, you just went from group to group and saw a lot of great things happening. So hats off to FFA, Mr. Frowine, Jay, whoever all made that happen. I just went out and enjoyed it. 2 last things. I just want to keep giving a Spanish update. We had a real brief discussion in our admin meeting, and this isn't a Baxter problem. This is probably America problem. The teacher shortage is real. I mean, it is scary real right now, and we're going to be, you can't compete with a lot of different things. It's like Mike would say, we have to find ways to recruit people and keep people, and we've said that forever, and it's just tough. So no Spanish teacher, we're online. It's a real teacher who's up in Northwest Iowa. We started with about 55 to 60 kids taking online Spanish and we're down to about 40. We're allowing them to drop probably here for another week. We dropped one today. It's pretty rigorous. There's good communication. I've been happy with the teacher, but again, it's not our teacher. I don't control their grading policies. I don't control their due dates. I don't control how they're doing business. I will say they communicate great. The stuff's out there, but if kids don't learn well on their own, Spanish is going to be a struggle. We talked to a few kids just this week, and it's a pass-fail option because it's an elective. So we're going to do everything we can to make it work for us, but it's my first go around without having, a teacher all year in that room. We do have a full-time para that we've hired who's doing a really nice job trying to just keep, for not speaking Spanish, just keeping organized with our kids and stuff. So just want to continue to give you that update where we're at. Our hope would be at semester we find someone. We only have a semester contract. We can renew it 2nd semester. I would be really cautious to think we'll find somebody at the semester. Hopefully we can find somebody at the end of the year. There's schools in our conference that went the other route and hired from overseas and are like in major issues right now. So it's a give and take if you want to take somebody that maybe not have an education background for whatever reason. But and the last thing, I know I talked last month about our goal, one of our top goals in our building student engagement, especially coming off the COVID year and just all the things that went along with it, we wanted to get kids engaged in the classroom. And one thing we think we're holding that back was our phones. Our cell phone problems were growing and growing. I told you it'd take me hammering for about 2 weeks to really get that. It truly was about 48 hours, and I've had a handful of issues that I've had to talk to kids. We're putting them in caddies. Kids have said to me what a great thing this is. Even kids just forcing me to be engaged in the class, forcing me to talk to other kids. I can't hide behind this. It's becoming a huge issue in our this whole population, but that's going really well. So I was a little nervous when we decided that policy, and I was ready to tackle it, but I just want teachers in the classroom at this point. That's really, the kids are doing great. The phones have been great. We've started really well with everything considered. So right now it's just staffing. It's been a good start.
In those Spanish drops, is it the beginning or the upper level, or spread across the whole?
Probably spread across, and it's probably the right kids. The kids that it's like we ask, and Travis and I, why are you taking Spanish? Well, I think I want to go to college. Well, do you understand? Not necessarily do you have to have 4 years of Spanish, if that meaning you have a full load. So it's counseling why they're in Spanish. And the other thing we're doing for some, and the teachers have really been great. They're easy to work with. So if we had a kid in Spanish 3 that is not able to handle Spanish 3 because they didn't probably do well enough in 1 and 2 but got through it, we're just moving them back into 2 or at a different pace and place. And they've been real flexible. We'll code it in our JMC however we want to. We just want them to be at the level that they're comfortable, but we want to push them. A lot more speaking than our kids are used to. So there's writing assignments, and then they have to go home and do recordings and send them in. So they're speaking more Spanish than I know we have in recent years. So I think kids are uncomfortable a little with that. I have been happy they work well in groups. We'll have people in the same classroom on 4th period that's like 2-1 kids, 3-2 kids, and 4-3 kids all, but they're in their little groups and either working independently or in their group. But they have to have some discipline to this for sure.
Is it just high school?
Just high school.
Yeah.
So we did have Spanish last year in the Explore. Yeah,
Yeah.
and we obviously for reasons we took that out and added a couple other things. So we'd love to get it back, but right now with being online, that wasn't going to be a great option for middle school kids.
So when you say coding in JMC, so if you have a student that, let's say, should be in Spanish 3,
Yep.
that dropped down to Spanish 2, when he or she graduates.
It will look at Spanish 3. We'll get their grade even though they're doing 2 work because what we need to show is they were in Spanish for 4 years.
Okay.
Like there's some like Iowa, you need the 4 years of Spanish to be able to waive that
Right.
Spanish when you get onto campus.
Right.
So it will just show 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Okay.
And again, we've talked to kids, there's some GPA concerns. We're SRG, so the redos, and this instructor allows redos up until the final, so they can redo everything leading up, not the final, but the unit exam. Now, there is no redo on the unit exam, but as long as they're doing all the work up to that, and like I told a handful, we go learn, enjoy the learning, try to learn your Spanish, don't stress, don't have high anxiety about the grade. A pass is a pass. It will look the same in that transcript. Not a big deal. As long as you're pushing yourself and trying to learn, you're going to be fine. But some kids, that's easier to say than others because they have major goals. But they have to learn that passes. Any of the electives you can take pass fail. So it's okay. It's one that's on our radar every day. I just talked to Dennis and Travis on email right before I came in. We have another meeting Friday to discuss some things that are going on there now to help them be more successful. So.
Thank you. Jason.
Great. I'll jump on some of the stuff that Rob started off with. I think back to the first day of school, the open house we had. What a great night that was. I mean, there was so much feedback from parents, community members. Kids were excited. I mean, it really felt like a great atmosphere. I think everybody was ready to get the school year going. So that catapulted us right into the year, and really, minus some hiccups this week, no looking back on that. Our teachers have been doing a great job. Obviously, we have a new reading resource in Wonders, the Reading Wonders, and so our teachers are in full implementation of that. There's some growing pains with it, right? It's we're trying to use it to fidelity, and there's just some time constraints. Geez, I have 90 minutes planned for this and it's taking me 120, just trying to feel our way through it and really get after it. It is very rigorous. Our students are being challenged and pushed and all the classes in this, and I've been trying to get around this past week. I spent more time in classes than I have so far this week, but watching kids writing, having conversations with kids about the work that they're doing with their wonders reading, especially around the writing, was where I happened to come into most of the lessons, and just really engaged with that, really challenging themselves, really pushing, but feel very good with where we're moving with that, and our teachers are becoming really accustomed to it and feel very positive about that. Of course, IM Math is year 2 for us. It's really the first year because last year was the beta. And so there's some small changes with IM as far as what they did with their, maybe some of the lessons, adding some lessons, tweaking some lessons, but for the most part for us, we're full steam ahead on that. And our kids are just, I feel really good about some math. We're starting to get some fast math data back here. We started this week, and initially things look pretty good. There's not enough to say, yeah, things look great, but our kids math-wise, I feel really solid that our kids are having good math conversations, and we're hoping to be able to provide again some intervention work with some of our kids that are struggling with math. You know, last year Kay came in and was working a couple days a week in the afternoon with some kids, and you know, we tentatively talked to her about that, waiting till FAST happens just to kind of see some of our needs. And so, but we've had some teachers already reach out to Zach and I saying, hey, are we going to be able to get Kay back for, you know, at least a couple days a week to work with some of these kids that need some help in math. And so I'd love to have that. So the teachers are just, and the kids are just taking these new instructional strategies, instructional ideas. You know, they're just taking them in stride and really pushing themselves, and we feel really good about that. Of course, we're really trying to get back to our school improvement work. Our goals centered around, we'll say ESSA, but really, you know, I just feel like now, like we're so far removed from that, I just feel like we're just trying to get on track with all the school improvement stuff we're working on. So obviously that's our PLC work, our WIN work, our common assessment work, just those discussions, those collaborative teams of teachers getting together, identifying what students need, putting great instructional strategies in place, and then putting supports in place with WIN. I mentioned WIN as we talked about paras and moving people around, teachers around for some of the issues we've had this week, but really tomorrow might be the first day where we might not have a WIN. I mean, we've had WIN every day. We may have been short one teacher and had to regroup some kids, or somebody's subbed in and filled in, but a WIN team includes the 2 classroom teachers, Cheryl Russell, Allison Bartholomew, or Janet. Janet takes her group when Allison's shared with the other district, and then Angela Mergen works with the group. Tomorrow will be the day where 2 of those groups just can't happen. There's just not enough staff to get 2 of those groups, but the teachers are gonna work to regroup or to try to, like, at least having those kids working on the activity in a different place while that person that runs that group isn't available. So we're trying to meet those school improvement needs wholeheartedly and take care of that and keep us moving in the right direction that way. Along with some of that, this is the first year probably where we really, since, you know, the interruption of last year and the 5 months, summer of the year before that, just really our focus when we left in March that year was around social emotional mental health behavior. So 1.5 counselors, right? Both Miss and Mrs. Hoffman. So having Mrs. Hoffman here full time has been absolutely probably one of the best things we've done for our students. Having Miss Hoffman join us with the shared position from Colfax adds to that. She comes with a wealth of knowledge and experience, and is working very hard in our counseling department. So they're working with groups of kids, individual kids. They're collecting data from all kids. They're having these minute conversations. This is what our school improvement work needed around that, right? We needed data about where our kids are and what those well-being type needs are. So our teachers are putting things in place. Obviously, are capturing kids' hearts, routines that we have. We've implemented common area plans again this year. So there's posters around the school, how we behave in the cafeteria, what our expectations are there, hallway, restroom, bus, and I missed one, playground. And so we're always revisiting those posters, talking to kids, some tier 2 stuff, right? We have a group of kids that are going to have a lesson around being quiet in the cafeteria and lining up to go out to recess appropriately. It just seems to be an issue for them day in and day out. So we're going to pull them aside and just kind of have a quick mini lesson with them about safe and orderly expectations here at our school. Because if our school is safe and run in an orderly way, our students are going to achieve higher, our teachers are going to achieve higher, they're going to feel, that that's there. So we're really putting a lot of emphasis into that. Teachers, counselors, staff in general. Our building leadership team talked simply about that in the conditions of learning survey data. So we highlighted some of those areas that we felt were things. We looked at data that parents had provided, teachers had provided, and students had provided. So, what we're putting in place, is it having the effect that we're going to want it to? Is it meeting the needs that our data shows us? And so we're feeling good there. The Ag Day, don't forget, Lily did a lot with that. Lily Van Sice did a lot with that, organizing with me, organizing with, I think, just the FFA group in general, but Lily did a lot reaching out to our teachers. That was a great day. It was awesome to see the kindergartners and first graders like up in that enormous sprayer and combine. And I think one of the ag kids made the mistake of like starting to put 2 at a time in the sprayer. And then the kids over here were like, well, I want to be in it. And we're only supposed to be out there for a half hour. So it's like dragging on. I'm going, we're pushing 45 minutes and we've only got like half of the kindergartners through this. And so then a couple other kids were like, let's get them into combines instead. And so we were able to, but it was kind of funny to me because like all that cool stuff. And I think for kindergarten and first grade, like the best part was that the principal drives a bus. Like that was the most amazing thing that they'd ever seen in their lives, that you're actually driving this bus. And so they thought that was pretty cool. Drop off and pickup has been going pretty smoothly. I really honestly like couldn't think that we could expect better. We have a few issues. It's funny that some get dropped off going west on this road when this is a one-way going west and this is where the drop-off is. So when you're going west on this road and you drop people off, they're getting out into traffic. That's a problem. Over here, they wouldn't have to get out into traffic. I've sent some emails specifically to people and maybe it's still happening. Maybe we're just going to refuse to do that. So, but the one-way has worked great. People's patience has been great, pulling up, picking up their students. Sometimes you're in the front of the line, your kid's the last one to come out. I mean, that's just kind of how it goes. But I feel like that's a much smoother situation than it's been. I think our bus drivers feel better about like they can leave without like having cars lined up or pull in without cars lined up. But there's still a few little issues, but we'll just keep working towards that the best we can. And then lastly, I will say that, we've had special ed. We're trying to find something because our special ed numbers and levels of numbers have been pretty tough in our building right now. And so we've been trying to hire a special ed teacher to alleviate some of that. And this week I hired a special ed teacher. She's not special ed, she's a teacher though, and she's very well, so we'll be a conditional license on that. So really excited about this person.
Have you heard any positive feedback about the safety outside of school from parents?
So many parents have said positive things and felt really good about it. So many. I wish I could say those that were concerned about it in past years and talked to me have said something to me they haven't. So I wish I wish I could get some feedback from them like, yeah, this is great. But so many people feel good about it. That I'm just being told, so I feel really, good. Like I said, I mean, kids are kind of like, hey, you weren't here today to help me get across the street. And I had to kind of cut between cars because the cars pull up here and most parents are aware that that's the crosswalk and they don't block the crosswalk at least. Every once in a while, there's a back end of a car hanging into the crosswalk or a front end that we didn't stop fast enough. But they're trying to at least respect that crosswalk's there without being told to, which is great. But I try to walk kids across because cars are still coming by, right? And so I try to be out there the best I could. It'd be great if there was an opportunity that I didn't feel I had to be out there, but I just feel like most days somebody needs to be out there just to, because what we're going to run into is, this is the one thing I worry about the most is that some car is going to pull out because when they pick up their kid, they want to pull out and get into that. And sometimes they're not paying attention. And I've cringed once because a golf cart came by this way and this person didn't see the golf cart, and that was a little cringeworthy moment for me there. So I'm just trying to get people, just take our time there, we'll just pull out. But I, for the most part, I received 0 complaints about it.
Great.
So.
Thank you. Next item on our agenda is the nutrition report. We've got a link there we can open.
Yep, so I provide this to you every year, and it's something that you generally approve. It's basically just what the previous year looked like on the financial side of it. It also tells you the participation numbers in our nutrition program. If there's a silver lining in the COVID-19 pandemic, it's that we got free meals last year, and we're getting them again this year. So if you think about it, if we're providing free meals to students, then how are we paying? Because that's an expenditure to create those meals, right? So the federal government gives us reimbursements for that. Well, they increased the dollar amount of those reimbursements. And so that helped us out tremendously, because if you think about it, all those kids that were online were still needing to be provided lunches. So we had to get disposable to-go boxes, and they ate with disposable silverware. And I mean, it was just an expense that you don't normally think about, that just kept coming and kept coming. So anyway, our breakfasts are up 68% from the year before last year. So I think that's also a good thing in what happened with those free lunches. It maybe pushed the parents to have their kids eat here rather than at home. And so our breakfasts had been struggling in the past. And so that's what our goal was to get those breakfasts up a little bit. And so I think maybe the COVID helped it a little bit in that way. So it was up 68%, and our lunches were up 14%. So that was a good thing. And so we hope to keep that, especially over this next year. And we have a new food service director, as you know, and she's doing great things. At least once a week, we're having homemade things made from scratch, homemade items. Students are eating hummus during the day, and I mean, things that you wouldn't even consider them eating.
It was so good. I'll just be honest. I love hummus, but she made it homemade, and I was like, can I just have like another bowl of that? Like, that's like unbelievable. It was so good.
Homemade pita chips.
Yeah, it was so
It's
good.
good.
So, and you may not think about this either, but with COVID happening, a lot of the adult meals went in the tank.
We
Because,
didn't have people coming in.
right, we didn't have people coming in, and we didn't have staff eating
Yeah,
anymore. They were
sure.
staying in their rooms and just bringing their lunches and meals, from home. So that went in the tank quite a bit. So we lost, in theory, we lost numbers there, but our student lunches still climbed. And so now that staff know that we're getting made from scratch meals, and she's trying different things. I've heard a lot of great things about it. I'm trying to get her to stick on a certain day so staff know when the scratch made meals are, but we're getting there. I think we figured it out. It's either Tuesdays or Thursdays. And so I think it'll help in the long run with them being free meals, that those students who may not normally have eaten because they were having to pay for them, or they were free or reduced, are eating them now, and so we might get them hooked, and those numbers will stay up.
Are we having people come in, like
Yeah,
adults
parents
coming
can
in?
come.
Yeah. Yep.
I've heard good things about her too, about the meals and about her presence in the lunchroom, checking in with kids. What do you think? How are things going? How's everything? I mean, like as if you're in a restaurant, which I think is a really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she was
Great
hoping to be here
visibility.
tonight. She really had planned to, but she has a sick child. So I forwarded you guys just a message that she had typed up, just a little summary. She sent it after school. And she plans to come to one of the next meetings because she wants to meet you all and just kind of talk about her program. And we just are so, so pleased with her.
I think
Taste Clark.
Amy last year, she was really good.
Oh, absolutely.
She
This
was
is
really
not
good.
a ding on
But
Amy
I
at
think
all.
that she was just
being-
stretched too thin.
Yeah, just being
You
present
know?
every day with Taste
Yeah.
being here
Mhm.
daily, it
Stace-
just makes a difference.
Yeah, I mean, Taste has, backup plans in case their people get sick, because last year, if you remember, we talked about if any of the cooks were gonna get sick, we were gonna have to shut down school because we couldn't serve a meal. She's got backup plans in place and, she worked previously for Grinnell
Grinnell
College. So she's used to
And
big
she's a
numbers
chef
and,
And
yeah.
she's a gem, and we're just blessed. to
And she
have her.
actually told us that they're working 2 days ahead.
She did tell me that.
So, yeah, is she still on 2? That's
2
what she
days
was
ahead,
before.
she told me today. And,
Yep.
we're also starting up, because we haven't served breakfast on the Monday morning
Oh,
late
yeah.
starts.
Right.
Grab and go.
So now she has grab and go. Little confusion with the grab and go. The idea was that it was in one package. Everything was in like one package, so you could grab it and go. But what I wanted was grab it and sit down in the cafeteria, because what I had was
Do it
all
everywhere.
that stuff all over the hallways, because kids go line up in the hallways, and literally every kid took it and went. And then there was stuff spilled, and so I spent, we were all, yeah, so I went right down, I'm like, hey, Taste, grab it and sit, like, so, gosh, so we're
Live and learn.
grabbing and sit. So next Monday, things will be,
The big
hopefully a
kids
little
can grab and go.
Yeah.
Jason's kids maybe.
my
can
kids,
grab
I'm
and
gonna
go.
grab and sit
Yeah.
down.
Don't grab and go
No,
to
please
the
don't go with
Yeah.
it.
No, right, there's a distinction.
Because some of them are grabbing milks too, and then those milks didn't get drank, and then they got put in lockers.
Oh,
And then you don't know how long they stay in the locker, right, before somebody discovers that the milk's in the locker. So grab and go is not gonna be the second part of that.
Yeah, so I
But
think.
yeah, she didn't I think she had like 60 some kids eat on Monday.
Yeah.
So
And this was just the first time.
I was standing,
And
maybe
then
it was
she even
58.
had, she made like little flyers, like you're at a restaurant, like there were like little folded table tents in the Millville Commons, and
Yeah.
it just says,
Hanging on the
hey,
front water fountain.
grab
Yeah.
and grow
Yeah.
breakfast on Mondays, and
And
she's kind of like drumming up business. for-
She is.
She's-
I mean, she told us, with those being 2 days ahead of the meal, she said that she could potentially serve a lunch with one person there.
Yeah.
Because they're,
oh my gosh.
And she has,
Can they sell?
actually,
Taste has a
she got a sub license
Taste
so
has
that
a
she can help out. I mean, I'm telling you, this lady is like a dream come true.
She asks me lots of questions daily. She asks kids lots of questions. She wants a lot of feedback
Yeah.
on things. And I think it goes, her staff is very excited about the stuff they're doing. They do like, Mr. Aker, it's homemade, Mr. Hamburgers with real beef in them. I'm like, all right. I mean, and I honestly told her one day that like probably in my 19 years here, I've probably eaten 2 or 3 times in the cafeteria, because I just don't eat, everybody knows, I just don't eat like normal people. So anyway, so the other day she was on me about what meal I want, because she's gonna make a meal that I'm like, we don't need that. We don't need to do that.
well, this was the first year in, at least since I've been here, so 14 years, that we did not have a hot dog on the first day of school.
And it's like,
Because when we come off hot dogs, in the summertime and concessions and that, there's chicken nuggets, but the kids loved it, so. And homemade spaghetti
Oh my
on
gosh.
Oh,
the second
that-
day, so.
That homemade bread, I mean, I'm telling you, like, we're all gonna gain weight. Taste her- Except Jason doesn't.
But I did eat hummus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're very pleased with the nutrition.
Yeah, the nutrition report looks, we got a positive balance in it, so that's a good thing always.
Yep.
Anybody have any questions on that nutrition report? Do we have a motion to approve it as presented? We have a motion, do we have a second? A motion, a second, all in favor, aye. Those same sign. Nutrition reports approved as presented. The next item is request for allowable growth and supplemental aid for special education deficit.
So,
Yeah.
oh,
Go ahead.
okay, yeah, so we need to request for allowable growth and supplemental aid from the SBRC, which is the School Budget Review Committee, for $2,989.29 for the 2020-21 school year due to a special ed deficit. And that's just what you do, like when your special ed expenditures are too much, then you go to the SBRC and they approve more.
Your goal is for them to not be too much. Your goal is to break even. Rarely does that happen.
Yeah.
We tried really, really hard. And so not that other schools don't, but I mean, it's one of those things, it's a little bit different in the public sector in that if we didn't go negative, if we say positive, then they take that money away from us and then spread it to those who did have a negative deficit. So it's one of those where they want you to spend all the money. And so we try really hard to get as close to zero as we can with what we have. And so I talked to John earlier yesterday and didn't think that we were gonna have to ask for allowable growth, but I mean, it's $3,000 and it's not much, but in this environment, with the cuts that we had to make a couple years back, we want that allowable growth as much as we can get. So we'll go ahead and ask for it. It doesn't hurt.
And many districts have like
Hundreds of thousands that they ask. And you remember last year, ours was 70,000 because
You just never know who moves in
Yeah,
or what
and we
needs
had to-
kids have. or
we
you
had to
gotta
stop our, school was cut short, but we still paid out our salary contracts and all that good stuff. So we didn't have any Medicaid coming in. So it was a big deficit for last year, but generally this is where we like to run.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the request for the allowable growth and supplemental aid for the 2020-2021 special education deficit? We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion, a second. All in favor, aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion's approved to request the allowable growth. The next item is to approve the 2021-2022 Title I program.
Okay, so we just need to approve the 2021 title program. Now we complete this application in May of each year for the following year. Therefore, we have to move the approval of the program to February going forward. So just now we just need to approve the program. And we bring in about $40,000 a year to help pay for our Title I teacher. So, and at the elementary level, we do just Title I reading. We don't do any math, do we? Just Title I reading.
Is that ever an option
Title
for
I
math?
Yeah, I mean, if we had enough funding, but it's possible. In one of my former districts, we did, we circled Title I reading and Title I math. So actually two of my former districts, but it's just how you want to divvy up the funding. Sure. And, or if the teacher has time in their day to serve reading and math, or if they have the endorsements, because you have to have a reading endorsement to do reading. I don't believe you have to have a math endorsement to do Title I math, but I have to check. But it's a possibility.
So that 40,000 doesn't quite cover the whole salary of our teacher.
Yeah. I know we've talked about it before.
Anybody else have any questions on that? We have a motion to approve the 2021-2022 Title I program as presented.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion, a second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's approved to approve the 2021-2022 Title I program as presented. Next item on the agenda is the 28E agreement.
And that's just an agreement that we share with DMAC so that we let them send over their student teachers or their teacher prep kids. They can come in and observe in our classrooms. And so we just have to approve it every year that we'll still let their kids come.
We've been getting very many of those. Or
Have we had,
We didn't have any last year,
I think
probably
because
because of
everything with
right?
COVID last year, have we had very many? We have, every once in a while we'll get some.
DMAC,
Yeah,
we get a lot more from other places.
Yeah.
Other than DMAC, we get our own kids.
yeah.
So our kids are taking that teacher prep through the Career Academy, and then they'll come over and do the observation
Mhm.
here.
Which is still DMAC though.
It's DMAC
Yeah.
credit, even though
Yeah.
they're coming back here to do teacher prep stuff.
We get a lot of Iowa State.
Tons.
Yeah.
I have a couple right now, Upper Iowa.
Yeah.
I'm doing, I'm sorry, I just lost it. They're 20-hour
Oh, the,
practicum, yeah.
Practicums,
I have a
yeah.
couple of those. I have one student teacher set up for later in the year.
which
I-
is,
I
we
did
love
a couple.
forming those relationships and fostering them, because the more we can get them in our building, the more we can hopefully keep them. And, I've got contacts at Drake, and so we try and we reach out, trying to find like creative pathways. So we've got some teachers here on staff that teach for Upper Iowa, so that helps us get Upper Iowa kids. And we've got a strong relationship with Iowa State. We get some UNI ones occasionally. We get a lot more Iowa State just because our proximity to Ames.
Any other questions or discussion on that? We have a motion to approve the 2080 agreement with DMAC. We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion's approved to continue the 2080 agreement with DMAC. Next item is the approval of our district law firm.
And this is just a routine thing that we do, but we always use Allers and Cooney as our district law firm. Unless you guys want to go a different direction, but they've served us well.
Any questions or discussion on that? We have a motion to approve Allers and Cooney as our district law firm.
So moved.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion's approved to approve Allers and Cooney as our district law firm. Next item is the annual city school collaboration match.
So we traditionally set aside $5,000 to partner up with the city on a project. And Jennifer and I talked a little bit, and I haven't talked to her since their meeting. I forgot all about it. But one of the things we talked about was matching funds to work on paving a parking lot at Shady Park, because that would definitely benefit both the school and the city. We could use that overflow parking for games at school, and then they can use it for just people at, or DC Park. It's finishing, yeah, DC Park. Old school Shady Park. Yeah.
Okay, does the board think of that?
That's great. Yeah,
Discussion,
that's
or,
great. Yeah.
I know we talked about that a couple of years ago.
So this is, I'm sorry if you said this, but this is before their budget and all that.
Yeah, so they had a meeting Monday night, and so she was gonna bring it up with them to see what they were gonna do. So we can set ours there to agree to match, and if they decided not to do it, then we would just hold on.
I think they
ours.
put their budget together like in February,
Okay,
if I remember
okay, yeah.
right, so.
Thanks.
They're same time as us.
Okay, good.
And last time they said, you know, they'd like to do it, but they wanted to have a project in mind, instead of just saying, sure, we'll just match whatever. They were like, let's have an idea, so that's where we came up with paving the parking lot.
So somebody want to make that motion to approve the use of our collaboration match of $5,000? Parking in Easy Park. We can make it contingent upon the city also contributing $5,000.
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion, do we have a second? We have a motion, a second, all in favor, aye. Those same sign. Motion's approved to use our annual collaboration match of $5,000 to go towards parking in Easy Park. Next item is district enrollment for this year.
These are just soft numbers. Count day isn't until October 1st, but these are just roughly counting how many kids we have in our seats today. You know, kids can move in, kids can move out. There's all those factors, but as of a couple days ago, anyway, we had a total of about 455 kids. Plus, we have 27 preschoolers, but I didn't count them in the count because just so like when you do count day, preschoolers count as half. It just kind of mixes it all up. So anyway, last year at this time we had 438, so that's up about 17. And Jason, do you remember how many preschoolers we had last year off the top of your head?
35.
35. Okay, so we're down a couple of preschoolers because there's about 27 and there are 35, so it's still
Is
9
it,
kids.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no,
Is it up, open and enrolled, or you know that,
we just right now we're just counting how many heads do we have at our
Okay.
school.
You just, okay.
That's just
I
all in.
just want to get
count
it
If we put them in a line, we've got 455 kids plus preschoolers, but I don't know how many are,
anxious to find out the
Yeah.
official.
yeah, we will be. So October 1st is the day we count for sure, officially. And then that's where you add in, extra weighting for special ed kids and
Yeah.
preschoolers count as half. And that's where you get your that final count, but these are just like actual kids in seats.
Okay.
So. It's a good place though. It's good to be, just that trend is a nice trend up. Slow and steady, that's what we want.
Next item is open enrollment.
So we have Lori, excuse me, for her daughter Madeline to continue to attend Baxter after a recent move to West Marshall. And then Ginger and Travis Henderson for their son Lincoln in kindergarten to attend Baxter from East Marshall. And Sarah Tisdale for her daughter Adelaide to continue to attend Bondurant after a recent move into our district. So that's an out.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the open enrollment applications as submitted? There's a motion, do we have a second? All in favor, aye. Opposed, same sign. Open enrollment applications are approved as submitted. Personnel.
So I just added that one a second ago. So it might not have all the information we need, but to approve Bree Crook as the elementary special ed teacher.
How'd you land that?
I know, like we could not be happier.
Well, we'll just say that there was a middle of a football game text conversation happening when I should have been like paying attention to Ron and listening on the booth.
Well, we're
but-
still winning, but there's so.
We're,
That's
well, we're up by 50 points, so what was I supposed to
They
do? I
did.
figured I might as well respond,
They
so.
probably
If
ran
you
it
want
back.
to get on you.
But I did send to her, I can't talk right now, I'm coaching, so.
That's huge. That's awesome.
Yeah, we're so
We're excited
glad
about
to have
that.
her.
Excited about that. And she's excited.
Do we have a motion to approve Bree Cook as an elementary special education teacher? We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion's approved to offer Bree Cook a contract.
Hey, can we go back a second? Did we say Blake Madison Langmaid?
No.
No.
Can we go back and do that? Okay, also Blake Madison Langmaid, kindergarten, open enrolling from Newton to Baxter.
We have a motion to approve Blake Langmaid as an open enrollment.
So moved.
Motion, do we have a second? Motion, a second, all in favor, aye. Opposed, same sign. Open enrollment's approved.
Thank you, sorry about that, we just missed that one.
Okay, we'll move on to review of board policies, 400 through 600.
And Corey, I know you had asked about making sure they were the right ones. I talked to Julie about that, and then once we get them back, we print the new ones and make sure they're all in there, updated.
Any other board members come up with any things in those board policies?
Some good late night reading.
I love having this stuff at home.
Look at it more than I thought I would.
Okay, this is considered the second and final reading of those board policies. We have a motion to approve those. We have a second. All in favor, aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion's approved. Facilities, grounds, and transportation.
Not really any updates there. I did just email Jamie and Dale and they'll just say, hey, where are we at with those heaters?
Okay.
When I find out, I'll let you guys know.
Sounds good. Next item is the Baxter Community School District Equity Plan.
This approving the district's equity plan is an annual requirement in efforts to maintain schools accreditation. The plan provides guidance on equal opportunities for employees of our organization, as well as protections for each student and employee is afforded across the organization. And it's not changed from last year or anything. It's just every year we have to update the equity plan or reapprove it.
Members have any questions or comments on that? Motion to approve the equity plan as presented. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
A motion, a second. All in favor, aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion's approved to approve our equity plan. Move on to the superintendent's report.
Okay, just a couple highlights. A lot of the stuff Jason and Rob already talked about. But one thing I want to talk about is the newsletter. I want to consider changing the format of the newsletter. John and I visited about this, but it costs us about $3,000 a year to print it. And I know some people read it, but a lot of people don't. And if we sent it out as a digital option for people, they could read it on their phones, they could have interactive links with it. So what I want to do is I want to send out one more paper copy version. And then John made a great suggestion on somewhere on there, make a form that says, if you want to get this in paper copy, put your name and address here, or check this box, and send it back to us, or drop it off at the school. And we will still be happy to print as many as people want paper copies of it. But if people are like, no, I'm perfectly happy getting a digital version, we'll send digital versions to people that want the digital version. Just to, it's a cost savings for one, and I think it'll just be able to be in color, the links will be live. So we just want to try that. So, but we also want to make sure that we're meeting the needs of some of our community members who still want the old school paper copy of it. So we're still happy to do that, but we just wanted to give options.
I think that will be good with some of the forms that are in there are so hard to read.
Oh, they
I think
are.
it's just a copy of a copy or whatever, and it just doesn't lend itself well to print. So having it electronic will probably be a lot better.
Yeah, I don't know if you noticed also in the bills that we paid a bill to a new company. So Miss Applegate Rummel's yearbook class is taking over the new editing and creation of it. And so I see that she has contracted with a new company, so I think that'll help as well with, some of the, with formatting and things like that.
Yeah, that first time around, like a lot of those forms, like when it came in the printed version, we were like, holy smokes, this looks terrible. It wasn't their fault though, because they just used what they'd been given from years past and then inserted it in, and it just did not, it just didn't look good. So, I mean, we don't want to put out a product to our community that looks not high quality either. So that was not all the yearbook class's fault. That was just the papers they were given. It was their first time doing it. But we just want to try this new format. And we're happy to print. If every single person sends back and says, no, I want paper copy, okay, great. We'll send the paper copy instead. But we just want to make that an option for people.
Yeah, it's been quite some time. I mean, as long as I've been here, we haven't asked who wants to keep getting it or who doesn't, we just add it, if we feel someone calls and wants to be added, we add them, but we really don't take off what we're supposed to, so.
I mean, we found, as we were going through it, kind of just sorting them, we found people who've been passed away years and years ago, who are still getting it mailed to them, people whose kids graduated years ago, and they don't even still live in our district, all sorts of stuff. So it just is time to kind of relook at the newsletter.
May I please ask a quick question regarding who'd be getting this? And the reason I'm asking is because my grandson's open enrolled and I'm the only one in the family getting a paper copy. They aren't getting it in IRA. Would you be using like email addresses or phones or whatever it is you have on file for the students, so only the student families and anyone listed in there would be getting it?
Is that how they do it?
I just have to say, I don't get one
See,
ever. And because I have a Rhodes address, we live right on the other side of the road, and I never get one. I have to call and ask every year to get put
to get
on.
added, and then that's what we found too. We found all sorts of just errors with the list and things like that you shouldn't have to call.
But I think I get
every
an
year.
email copy because I get all your emails.
Yeah, so we just need to tidy this list
Yeah,
up.
currently the two don't talk to each other. The mailing list of the newsletter,
Okay.
doesn't talk to James.
So we're gonna try and figure out how to marry those two a little better. And then, so Sue, or whoever, if people live like open enrolled people, they absolutely still get it. Or people just call us and say like, can I get a copy or get on your newsletter list? We send it to them. So we'll make sure you get it, but your family doesn't.
I get it, and I make sure that I give it to them so they can read it over. I don't point things out in there, and
Yeah.
so we just handled it that way. But
Okay, but we can
if you're
sure
gonna
get them
use
a
what's
copy.
on their student record, then they'll be getting that.
Okay, so that'll be good. And then we can, have that form, and if people want the paper copy, we'll just make check a box and then drop it back off at the school or mail back to us or whatever, so. Okay, so that's the newsletter. I also want you to think about, like I mentioned in my email to you earlier in the week, just a little bit about goal setting for the board. Tonight's not the night to do it, but we could call in someone like, Harry, who's actually retiring, but there's someone replacing Harry, to just do a work. I know, that's what we all said, our hearts are breaking. Harry deserves it. Yeah, so to just maybe do a board workshop, around setting goals for the actual school board. I have goals, Jason and Rob have goals, we have admin team goals, we have, goals for kids, goals for teachers, but we don't really have a board. Like, what are the things the board wants to focus on? So, I thought that maybe after the election, so just depending on what happens, we'll just do it sometime in like November, December after the election, and just kind of start that as a starting point with setting some new goals for where we want to move going forward. So just kind of be thinking in your mind of things that might be goals you'd want to work toward. Sometimes they're around communication or financial goals or whatever. So
We did like November, December, that'd be after the IASB convention too. There's
Right,
some good
yeah, some
stuff
fresh
that
stuff,
comes out of
yeah.
that.
Which perfectly then, the ISB convention is November 17th and 18th. Typically we go as a team, so the whole board goes on the Thursday of that day, and they great learning, and then typically we go out for dinner as a team then afterward. And spouses, yep, and then like Jason and Rob usually join us with their spouses. So also be thinking about where you want to go. Kim's kind of the social chair on that. She's picked out the restaurant, so let Kim know or us. Or somebody has an idea of where you want to go eat that night, just let us know. I'm gonna skip back up. I want to talk a little bit about the operational sharing opportunity. I've been in contact with someone from GMG, and she's going to visit with her board also, but we have an opportunity to share a special ed director with them 1 day a week, and this lady is really, really good. She's, Jason, Rob, and I do the best we can, like managing it, and we can lead it, but I was a science teacher, Jason was a science teacher, and Rob was an English teacher. So we don't have the content knowledge in special ed that other people do. So I couldn't necessarily sit next to a special ed teacher and help them get better with the content that they need to know about special ed. But this lady has a master's degree in special education. She's taught special education. She's been a special ed consultant for the AEA, not Heartland, but one of the other AEAs. And so we're very excited about this opportunity. I'll still be very involved with it. She'll just be able to come in and partner alongside us to help with that. And then, like I've also said, having her take over some of those duties frees up a little bit of our time to do some of the other leadership things that we just are not having time to do. Like Jason said, his time is just consumed with special education right now. So having a partner that can help him and help his teachers to lighten that load, then that frees him up to be an instructional leader. It frees me up to do some of the things that we used to have our former curriculum director do. But since we have a new curriculum director who has a shorter time with us, Josh was here 50% of the time, and Wendy's only here 40% of the time. So there's just things that Wendy we can't have her do them because she's here less time. So there's still jobs that need to be done. So I'll be able to take some of those things on, and it'll free up this new person to be able to do some of the special ed things that I was doing. So anyway, we're very excited about it. And it's an operational sharing opportunity. So you get 3 FTEs for that. So for you guys, it brings in roughly a little over $21,000, and then we would pay out less than $21,000. So it's a net gain for us. So we'll get this extra help, and this mentor for our staff, but it doesn't even cost us any money because we get operational sharing dollars from the state for that. So it's a great benefit. Operational sharing is really a wonderful benefit for districts. So we're really excited about that. So we don't have a formal 28E yet. She has to still visit with her board. That's why I'm not even saying her name, so to have a chance to talk to her own school board. So once we get hers, that she talks to them and they approve it, then we'll be able to move forward. But we're very excited about it. So as long as you guys are all excited or fine with it, I'm gonna pursuing that. And then, let's see, just one other thing. I met with Kylie and I can't remember the other gal's name, our trainer and her boss, and they visited about setting up more hours because Kylie is swamped with our kids. But then she's also, when she's in there, she's got community members asking her about could they schedule times with her. And so I just wanted to make sure with her and her Ashley, yes, Ashley, thank you. That we wanted to make sure that we weren't competing with our local healthcare providers. And they have talked with each other and they are in collaboration, not in competition. So if there's something that Kylie can't do, if someone comes to her and says, you know, can you, I don't know, adjust something or whatever, when she knows it's not something she can do, she will recommend them on to our local healthcare professionals in town. And same with them, if they need any PT, he can say, well, we have a trainer at the school that you could go to. So we are not going to be involved at all in the billing of it. All we're doing is saying, sure, you can use a wellness center. She'll fill out a facility rental agreement, just like anybody who's going to rent the lunchroom or whatever. So it's just one more thing that we want to just help partner with our community and just build community relations. And if we can provide a space for community members to get a service that they need so they don't have to drive all the way to Des Moines or Ames or whatever, we're glad to do it. So I just wanted to let you know that that was happening. But I wanted to make sure too that, you know, that we are not billing, we have nothing to do with any of that. That's all of them. But she did, she sent me some papers.
That's new, because that's not what they had
Originally
decided.
Yeah, so that's what I told them, that we did not want to be involved with that. Okay, so the payment, they could bill hourly rate billed to the district or flat rate billed to the patient. And I was like, yeah, that's what we want. We want nothing to do with any of that billing business. Like, you can use our space, but we don't want to be involved with trying to, if somebody didn't pay their bill, like go find some.
And we want our students to be at first.
Right. So she's gonna have her office hours for our kids, and then these are additional office hours that she's gonna set up. She was gonna put like a survey, maybe in the fitness center or something, to kind of talk to people and say like, what hours would be the most beneficial for you? You know, would it be, you know, Monday mornings or Friday afternoon, whatever. So she's gonna try and work that out. But some of the services she can offer, and I don't even know what most of these things mean, but treatments to include TENS, cupping, scraping, tissue mobility, injury evaluation. Yeah, I don't even know any of this. Injury rehabilitation, some exercise things, nutrition things. So anyway, and then she showed me what she could also, some like fitness things for like, if, let's say, okay, someone has knee pain, so then she can prescribe what you should do for, this is Rob's. Yeah, no,
Is it your picture?
lower extremity strengthening. Yeah.
I know which face I am.
Yeah. So, and then she can also do like injury evaluation. And she does this for our kids now. So she'll do the evaluation. I think that's at no cost. And at the initial one.
The initial.
But then when if you have to get PT from her, then there's a fee. But it's pretty minimal. Yeah, and it's parents that have used it. I haven't had to use it yet. My kid, thankfully, knock on wood, hasn't been hurt. But they really appreciate not having to get their kid out of school, drive them to somewhere else. It's just they can do it real quick during study hall or.
Well, didn't she help with the physicals before?
Yeah,
school?
yeah,
Is that
they-
new,
that's-
or is that?
They did that last year.
Okay.
So they-
We
Seems like a
did
great-
this fall. We actually added a date
Yeah.
because the junior high just swamped them up.
Oh, I know. I tried to get on and it was full already. I'm like,
That's a
So,
really good thing.
It's
for us.
great, and
Yeah,
then
it
it's, I think it costs $20 per kid, but then they take that $20 and they donate it straight back to our booster club.
Oh, wow.
So they aren't even
Really
doing
free.
it as a cost or a money maker for themselves, they just do that for our boosters.
Kylie has a sub license, did you know that?
Oh, nice, see? We're telling you, like, we put anybody that has a license in the classroom, so that's awesome. Yeah, actually, now that you say that, I remember she was telling me she was working on it. So that's fantastic. So there's that. And then at the bottom, it was like, hey, the year's off to a great start. And then it sounds like the wheels fell off between the time I sent this to you guys last week and today. But I mean, it really is off to a good start. We've had a really positive beginning of the year. Teachers and kids have been positive. I mean, it's just, we're getting to that point where we've been at it for a little bit now and people are getting sick. But for the most part, I mean, people are just glad to be back. And it really, we've all focused on trying to have just a better attitude and just be thankful to be here. So I really do think it's going well. And like I'm talking about here, the traffic pickup, Jason's already covered that. So, yeah, things are off to a pretty good start. So it definitely could be a lot worse than it is. So that's really about all I got for you.
Anybody else have anything? Hearing none, I'd accept the motion to adjourn. A motion, do we have a second? All in favor, aye. Pose same sign. Meeting's adjourned.
Jason, when did you start bringing a pad of paper to board meetings?
Look out for me to,